is this?
Well, good morning, YouTube. All right, guys, I have a motorcycle I need to work on, but unfortunately my shop was a mess. So before we can do this, we've got to get the shop cleaned up. Now, if you guys saw that little short I did with all the motorcycle parts, I actually made a mistake there. There's a Vance & Hines exhaust system that is in that pile of parts that is not for the Street King. I do have an exhaust coming for the Street King by Chrome Works. However, the Vance & Hines is actually for a Sportster I've got working here. If you guys remember, a few months back, we did some rocker box leaky gaskets and stuff like that on a Sportster for the Prison Preacher. Well, that bike is back in this video because we're gonna try to get the exhaust system put on it. But this shop is just a mess. We've got to get cleaned up. So today I've got my little helper Grayson with me, and so far what we've done is we have moved all of the dirt bikes out, all of the four-wheelers, and of course the Sportsters over there too. And we just got to clean and organize. Now, if you guys remember, last fall the kids were nice enough to build the studio, and the studio was here in the shop, and it's a great place for it to be because the lighting and the counter, it works well. But the problem is it takes up so much space in the shop that I really can't get to what I need. So we're gonna like partially disassemble this in about 3 sections. We've got to get it moved over to another place, probably in one of my other buildings. I get another storage building that's got tall enough ceilings, because I know it may not look like it in the video, but that's a good 8 feet tall. So trying to fit it in someplace with low ceilings isn't going to work. And I don't want to cut it down because I like the fact that it's taller for studio. It just makes sense. So anyway, once this is out of the way, Grace and I are going to just start cleaning and organizing. You know, the boys have been tearing dirt bikes apart and stuff and doing a lot of things in here, and it's just gotten out of hand. It's gotten messy, and we got to straighten it up because it's really bugging my OCD, and I can't find half of the stuff that I need because things have been put places where I didn't make the decision where they go. So even things that I had out already that I was using have been moved, and like I'm looking around, there's just stuff everywhere. I don't even know where to start. But today we've got to get this done so that hopefully I can work on that Sportster tomorrow. You know, I guess it's safe to say, but as a family, we kind of have a sickness for things on 2 wheels and 4. All right, guys, so I have this studio broken down into 3 different panels now so it can be moved. I said at the beginning of this video, I was gonna have Zach help me carry these across the property into the other building because I have a higher ceiling height there than I do even in the back room that I have here. If you go through that doorway, well, you can't hardly see it. There's a door right there. But again, the ceiling height is only this high in there, and you can see these are taller, so it wouldn't work moving it back there because I don't really use that area for service. I just use it kind of for storage, and so does Michaela and Zach. So logically, you know, the height made a big difference on where we could put it. So we were going to move that other building, but now that I've got it apart and I'm looking around, here's my idea, and tell me what you think. Right here, I've got the stack. These are the 3 lifts that we stopped using this year, and I really just don't have a good place to put them, so they got shoved in here. Extra piece of sheet metal, which is just the back side of one of these. I'm going to clear all this out of here and move it. Then what I'm thinking about doing is rebuilding the studio against this wall right here. Now, I was hoping I could just move it over there in all one piece, but that didn't work. So when I measured the width of the entire studio, it was just over 11 feet. It was like 11 feet 4 inches. And I looked, I was like, yeah, we can make that fit. And then, well, I whipped out the tape measure and I measured my bay, because keep in mind, I've got loft here and I've got loft here, so it's got to be able to fit between that. And I thought for sure it would work, but no, man, I was almost 2 feet off. I've just got just over 9 feet in this area. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move all this junk out of the way. I'm gonna put the centerpiece of the studio back over here in the middle. I'll put the 2 wings over here again, but I'm gonna have to change the angle to bring them in. Might be a little bit steeper. I don't know how well that's going to look on camera when we're actually recording, but that way it'll still leave me this whole area out here to do service. But it also take this area back here, whereas a lot of times where I actually do like engine builds or like, you know, fine detail work, and those benches back there because they get the good lighting, it'll then almost make that like its own little room. And then maybe I'll just put a bench on this side. I might even use one of these old lifts as the bench on the other side. And then it'll be kind of a galley with benches on both sides. It'd be great for tear down. There'll still be enough room to roll an engine in there if we need to. You guys probably can't see it from here, but there is an LS block back there that Talon's been working on tearing down to do kind of a sloppy mechanics build on, see what kind of power we can get out of it and throw it in one of these projects around here. I think I'm gonna give that a try. If I don't like it, I can always go back to my original plan, but it's already in here. Let's start with that and see how it goes. Here's part of my thought on it. If I move the studio to the other building, it'll still work great as a studio. But if I'm doing some type of studio work where we're actually installing parts on a motorcycle, which is we do the Street King build series coming up soon, I want to still be able to have this as a backdrop for doing the work, or that way, as I'm describing a product or something that I'm putting on the motorcycle just before I put it on, the studio is still here. So I'd actually like to keep the studio in a position to where I can do the actual mechanical work and the studio all in the same place. All right, guys, we got most of the list moved out of the way. Man, was that a pain in the butt. I don't know if it showed up on the time lapse, but the top lift, because there were 3 stacked on top of each other there. When I was trying to roll it off, it went over sideways on me, and it was everything we could do to get it turned back right side up. It was a pain in the butt, but Grace and I managed to do it. So now I've still got to clean up some other stuff here that I'm going to try to move the studio into place. But just in case you guys were wondering where that old piece of junk Snap-on toolbox went from last year and a half ago now almost, that got destroyed, here it is. So yeah, it's still sitting here in the shop. I kind of kept it just because the metal itself could be used for something. And actually I had an idea of taking the drawers and doing a project in the trailer with it. So my thought was, because the drawers, the way they are, same about cutting them shorter than bending them up in the back so they make little troughs, kind of like the ones I already have in the trailer to hold all the spray cans and whatnot. But those things are really expensive to buy. And this is actually pretty decent metal. So if I bend it right and bolt them on there, I just don't have a good metal brake. So I need to get one of those. Problem is I don't have room for much more equipment here until we get a bigger shop. So that's the only reason I held on to this, because I know this metal can be used for something. And truth is, it's part of a sickness of mine. If I see a potential in something, even if I don't know if I'll ever use it, I can't get rid of it. You know, part of me would love to just throw it away, but I just can't bring myself to do it. But that's a project for another day. But I figured I would just touch base on that because a number of people have left comments on some videos about, you know, whatever happened with Snap-on. Well, they still denied all my warranty claims and it's still sitting here. Sorry, Grayson's trying to wave and say hi. All right, let's get back to this. All right, so I somewhat cleaned up the area, swept the floors. Now, like I said, this is that LS motor back here the Talon's working on, and these are a lot of the parts he's got laid out. So I don't want to disturb any of that, even though it does need some cleaning back here, but I'm going to try not to mess with his project either. So I got the area cleaned up enough now. I'm going to go ahead and try and move the studio over and see if we can make it work. All right, guys, what do you think? So the 3 pieces are not attached to each other right now. The angles on the wood frame behind it, they don't match up with the new angle. So we're going to have to make some kind of a bracket or something, or just a piece of scrap wood to screw it together. Over here, you know, we can actually probably just screw this right to there and it'll hold it enough for what it needs to be. Same thing over here. But all in all, I think this works because now, you know, here from the studio side, we get some pretty good studio background. But when I turn this way, I still have the full shop area, which obviously once these lifts are all straightened out, we can still work this. So I can even put a camera over this way in the studio facing that way for when I'm actually doing service on the motorcycles. Well, it's starting to get late. As you can see, the sun is setting right over there, and it's starting to get really cold here. So I don't know how much more I'm going to do tonight, but did want to talk about lifts for a moment. All right, so as you can see, I have 3 lifts here. They're all the same exact brand of lift. They're all direct lifts. 2 of them I have had since 2007, and they've been very good lifts. The third one, which is this one here, I picked up, I want to say 5 years ago or so, locally. Somebody had it out in a barn. They were actually using it to raise Shetland ponies up on, to do, like, you know, manicure their hooves and so on and so forth. Great idea, but they never actually used it. So they built this cage on it and never actually used the lift. So even though it had been sitting in their barn for about 10 years, it was a brand new lift. It had never even had the air lines and all that stuff hooked up to it. Like I said, all of these lifts are the same brand. Only a couple minor differences. So if you look at the one that I bought from the pony barn, right, it is one solid table, to where this one, the one I bought in 2007, it has the split right here with the pins that you can pull out so that you can remove the tail. That's really there to make it easy for removing tires on big fendered bikes. This lift is exactly the same as the last one. So those 2 I bought together in 2007. But all 3 of these lifts got pulled off of the road last year for one reason or another. Each lift has its own problem, but I think that I can take parts from one, go to the other, and I can get one good usable lift left in here in the shop. And I think I'm going to choose this one right here. So the newest one I've got, it's got a terrible air leak in it. The piston is just losing so much air. It doesn't have enough strength to lift the bike up anymore. And they do make rebuild kits for them, and I will probably buy one for it, because that's probably the only thing wrong with that air system. But I don't think you can tell in the picture, but the deck is bent a little bit from the end to the front. There's a crown in it where it has gotten bent. And this one is the same way, but this one is way worse. When this one bent was in Surges, and we actually thought we were going to drop a bike off of it. Luckily, we were able to save it and we got the lift down, but we don't trust this lift anymore. Look, even sitting here on the ground, it doesn't even sit flat. It is twisted so badly, it won't even sit level. And when you look down it, you can see the bend. I'll show you, but I don't know if the camera's going to show it or not. Now you can see right here, the center point, there's this big bend in it here where it came out. And I'm not sure what caused that bend, but once that side was bent, that took away the structurability of that side of the metal, which allowed the top to be able to curve down. I may be able to bend it straight and reinforce it. I don't know yet, but I have one lift that is perfectly straight. I have the piston in this one that I think is perfectly good. So I'm going to take this piston and put it on the straight lift. Now, the reason I pulled the straight one off the road last year was not because of the deck. This one is not bent. The problem with this one is actually the ram, which is good on that one, and I'll show you why. So you see here in the end of the ram, you've got this little T, and they've got these rollers on both sides, and that's what makes these ramps make the lift raise up. Oh, by the way, you can see the cracks in the welds over there. That probably contributed to its failure. On this lift, as you can see, the rollers are missing here, and the clip no longer holds on. We've tried putting bolts on, and no matter what we did on this piston, for some reason, it would always shoot it off. So this started as, when the lift was under load, there's just a little circlip that held those rollers onto the end of that shaft there, and the circlip would no longer stay in place. So when there was a load on, it would literally just shoot the wheel off. So what I ended up doing is drilling the end of the shaft, tapping it, putting a bolt and a large washer there to hold the wheels off. But somehow it keeps breaking those bolts, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's a problem with the lift or if it's a problem with the ram. So I'm going to put another ram on it that is a fully functional ram, because I know that one is good, and hopefully it will all work. But while I'm doing that, I'll go through and check everything else. But I think that's probably going to be a project for tomorrow, because it's getting late and it's getting cold. I still have to clean off my benches. They're a mess. These benches are a mess, but the floor is clean, and I think we made some good progress. Once I figure out which lift I'm going to not use over here for sure, it'll be the one that goes behind the studio as a workbench. And then I still got one more lift I got to figure out what to do with. Plus I've got one more up in Goliath that hopefully will come home this year, because I intend to get 3 new ones to put in the rally rig to take with us to work on. I still got to roll 9 motorcycles back inside. Luckily, a couple of them are really small. Well, it looks so nice and open in here for a few minutes, but once we put all the lights back in, it looks pretty cramped again. But we're not done. We're going to work on it some more, but that is going to be it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're not already subscribed, please do. And until the next time I see you, keep those engines running.